and I decided to bring my boy to the Nordic Hockey Academy to have his skate here in Sheehan. We're originally from Toronto, Ontario. My son plays in the Greater Toronto Hockey League. He's a AAA 04, and I was very interested in your training model and the European philosophy around player development. So we've been here for the last few days and really enjoyed it very much. I'm a former professional coach, and I've coached AA and AAA hockey in Canada. And I've always been very interested in the European development model. And you see so many more Europeans playing in the National Hockey League and the American League. And the first thing you see when you arrive here in Sheehan with the Nordic Hockey Academy is that you see a really very well-run, well-organized training development program for youth hockey players. And not only do you see really excellent on-ice coaching, which happens frequently, many times a week, but you see tremendous attention to detail with nutrition and physical conditioning, which is something that we are having to pay for independently in Canada. The Canadian model is very different at the higher levels, or the AAA levels, whereas families would be responsible for paying $15,000 a year, let's say, for their child to play AAA hockey, and then thousands and thousands of dollars through the course of the year for specialized shooting training or skating training or off-ice training. But here at the Nordic Hockey Academy, it's all included in one price that is really very inexpensive in comparison to the Canadian model. I think the first thing I can see that would be really helpful for my son's development is people need to understand that in North American hockey, and certainly Canadian hockey, the pressure is enormous on the young kids. If you're not playing at the highest level when you're 15, you're not going to play hockey in Canada. Your hockey career will be over. My son has that opportunity. He has the capacity to play at that level in Canada. But I think the advantage for my son would be to have a longer development model, a better environment to work in and play in as a young man, to develop as a person, to improve his physical conditioning and his understanding of the game, his technical understanding. And I think these things are really important because too oftentimes players don't really develop their very best until they're 18 or 20 years of age. So it's impossible to use the Canadian model and say that only some players will be good enough to play high level hockey and other players won't. Boys grow at different sizes, at different ages. Their mental ability to understand the game changes as they get older. So what I see here is an advantage in time, a wonderful environment. It's very formatted. It is firm, but it's not aggressive. So I think the whole environment is really very good for developing a hockey player. Yeah, I've been studying medicine for over 20 years, 25 years. So I'm an osteopath, and I own and operate an osteopathic college in Canada, and I teach for a living. That's what I really do. I teach, I lecture, and I write. So when I see young men, or women for that matter, coming into sport, I think it's very important to develop the personality of the player and the character of the player. We put the hockey player inside the person. We don't develop the hockey player separate. So we develop the character of the person, their focus, their determination, their work ethic, their education, their habits of education, their day-to-day living habits. All of these things are very important in developing the character of a hockey player and of a person. Firstly, it's the person, and then the athlete goes inside the person. Take a moment to understand what you have. Do a comparative analysis. Go online, search out what it really means to have this type of environment, this type of educational environment for your child, and see not only the costs involved, but understand the environments that these programs are running under. So for instance, in North America, certainly in Canada, there's a tremendous amount of strain put on young athletes. There's a wonderful environment here. Firstly, the environment is so welcoming. Secondly, the cost is, for us, for a Canadian, incredibly low. And the quality of the training is incredibly high. So when you're making a decision and you're thinking about whether or not you want to be involved in a program, do a real cost comparison and understand what it is that the Nordic Hockey Academy is actually providing you, because it is really very unique internationally. My son's trained all over the world. He's trained in the Czech Republic, all throughout the United States, all over Canada. He has a private skating coach. He has a private shooting coach. All of these things are not involved in his everyday hockey costs. We have to travel all across North America at our own costs for our son to play. And here at the Nordic Hockey Academy, all of these things are in one comprehensive package